Hey guys, so today I'm going to be doing my October wrap up, and for the month of October my theme was Ominous October. Originally I intended to read 6 books, but I ended up only reading 3, so that's what I'm going to be talking about now. The first book that I read in October was Horns by Joe Hill, and I actually buddy read this with Missy over at Binge Reader. If you guys have not checked out her channel, please go do so. Link in the down bar. Link in the down bar. Now for those of you who don't know, Joe Hill is actually Stephen King's son, and I had such high expectations for this book because I was thinking, okay, son of the brilliant horror master Stephen King, he's got to have some good stuff. And I was not disappointed. I was not disappointed at all. Horns follows a man named Ignatius Parrish, known to his friends as Ig and Iggy. At the beginning of this book, it has been a year since the horrible, brutal murder of Ig's girlfriend, Marin. And as if that wasn't unfortunate enough, Ig is actually the #1 suspect in Marin's murder. So the book follows Ig on his journey trying to figure out who did kill Marin. While Ig is trying to figure out who the murderer was, he begins to grow these horns, these strange horns. That's right, horns on the top of his head. Not only does he start to grow horns, but he starts to develop a power where every person he speaks to tells him exactly what's on their mind. They basically have no tact. It's just a free-for-all, and he listens to all of it. Now, considering how much Ig has been through in the past year and how much his loved ones have been through subsequently because of what happened, he begins to learn some dark secrets and some really hurtful things about the people that are supposed to love him most. I know it sounds pretty sad at this point, but I have to say that this book is also really funny. It is a darker, drier sense of humor, which is always something that I gravitate towards because, you know, that's 100% me. But I loved it. I loved the writing, I loved the story, and I loved how it went back and forth from past to present, and I loved how it went through about 3 different perspectives throughout the entire book. It went through Ig's perspective, it went through Ig's best friend's perspective, and it ultimately went through Marin's perspective towards the end. I thought it was just so smart, I thought it was so funny, and I also thought it was really touching and beautiful. While I was expecting it to be a lot more scary, I was not let down because this book ended up being so much more than I thought it was going to be. I loved it, I thought it was fantastic, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, and I would totally recommend it to each and every one of you. I thought it was great. The next book that I read during October was Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Riggs. And this is a book that has been out for about 3 or 4 years now. I bought it around the time that it came out. I remember it was before I discovered BookTube. It was back whenever I didn't have any friends who read and I didn't know where to get book recommendations from, and I remember I was just flipping through Entertainment Weekly, I think, and they mentioned it and I was like, oh, it sounds good. But anyway, the point is I've owned this book for several years and I finally read it. Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children follows Jacob, and Jacob has just recently lost his grandfather under very tragic and strange circumstances. When Jacob was younger, he spent a lot of time with his grandfather, and his grandfather always told him these strange, peculiar stories, and he also had pictures to back it up. Through Jacob's journey of figuring out how it is that his grandfather truly did die, he comes to learn so many things. The most important thing being was that his grandfather may have not been lying about all the peculiar events. Now Jacob journeys to an island that his grandfather has spoken to him about for years and years, and he wants to get to the bottom of everything. He wants to know if this is real. I thought this book was really well written. It was a bit slow, and I had heard that before, but I'm really looking forward to reading the sequel and really looking forward to the Tim Burton adaptation of this book that is supposed to, I guess, hit theaters in 2016 or something? I don't know. I did end up really enjoying Miss Peregrine's, and I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. The final book that I read in October was The Diviners by Libba Bray, and this is a book that I have had on my shelf for over a year, and it has intimidated the hell out of me because it is so big. It's as thick as a steak. It is so big. And it just really made me nervous. But looking back at it, I kind of just laugh at myself because despite the size of this book, I flew through it. I really did. Towards the end, I didn't read it as quickly as I could have, but that wasn't the book's fault. That was my fault for being lazy. The Diviners follows a young girl named Evie, and Evie lives in the 1920s. It's during the flapper era, Prohibition, the Jazz Age, all that stuff. I am one of those people that are kind of a sucker for the 1920s, the dresses, the hair, the music, the dance. It's kind of lovely, but I haven't really read any books set in the 1920s apart from The Great Gatsby. This book is so different from that. This book is so different from really any book I've ever read. It's paranormal, it's a bit horror, it's a little bit historical fiction. It's got like a little bit of everything, romance, that type of stuff, but not too much romance. So I really liked that. I don't hate romantic stories, but I always, I'm gonna go on a bit of a rant here. I love the way that relationships were portrayed in Harry Potter. If you don't know Harry Potter, you might wanna mute it for just a minute. But for instance, the relationship between Harry and Ginny, it was kind of always second. You know, Harry's relationship was with the trio, his best friends. It was about his journey. He wasn't defined by a romantic relationship. And I think it's great to find stories like that because romance can get a little tiring sometimes. Anyway, tangent over. So Evie comes to realize that she has a special gift, and it is through this special gift that she creates a little bit of havoc, and her parents decide to ship her off to New York to live with her eccentric uncle. Evie's uncle Will owns a museum that focuses on the occult, and that in itself, Soon after Evie arrives in New York, these strange murders start happening around her, and she and her uncle kind of team up with the police to figure out who is killing all of these people. The murderer is not just killing them, it's not just random, he's got a plan, and Evie becomes convinced that through her gift she can help stop this murderer and keep him from, you know, murdering. I thought this book was so well written. I loved how it was told in so many different perspectives. While I did really only talk about Evie and her uncle Will, there are so many characters in this book, and that was something that I didn't find confusing or annoying. I thought that it kept things going, and I thought that it made great for such a big book because you don't want to just keep reading about the same character, or at least I don't, unless they're really freaking interesting character. So I really liked how there was that variety. In the end, I rated The Diviners 4.5 out of 5 stars. I did really enjoy it and I would recommend it. Alright guys, so that's all for this video. I'm sorry that I didn't get to all of the books that were in my original October TBR. This month just kind of flew by for me, so I do apologize for that. I feel like in every wrap-up video, all I do is apologize for the books I didn't read. I will say, I am planning and hoping for November to be a much better month. I've got my theme worked out and I'm going to be filming my TBR pretty soon. In the comments below, I would love for you guys to let me know what you read this month. What were some of your favorite reads? What were some books that you didn't like so much? Have you been eating as much Halloween candy as I have? Anything at all, really. You guys know I just want to talk. Alright guys, so that's all for this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I will see you in my next one.